The views expressed are solely those of the speaker and not necessarily those of Paltalk.com, AVM Software, or its advertisers.
Talk is online. News Talk Online is a production of Paltalk.com, the largest multimedia interactive program on the internet with more than 4 million unique users, on demand on iTunes and on YouTube, and on my site, GaryBaumgarten.com, where you are encouraged to post your comments, whether you agree with yours truly or not. And I can't believe you haven't been commenting on the story about the possibility that Hillary Clinton may be the next Secretary of State of the United States. She'd be only the third female Secretary of State, all three in my lifetime, if she were to be appointed. And I just can't believe people haven't been commenting very much about that. And thanks to our good friends at CRN Digital Talk Radio. We're syndicated across the United States into 12 million additional households. I am your host, Gary Baumgarten. Welcome to the show. Well, we are pleased to have a return engagement from Charl van Wyke, the author of the book Shooting Back, the Right and Duty of Self-Defense, which I hold up to the camera for those of you on Paltalk, and the DVD Shooting Back, the Right and Duty of Self-Defense, which I also hold up to the camera. For those of you who are unaware, Charl is the guy who went to church in South Africa, in Capetown, carrying a gun. Not a very Christian thing to do, they told him. Carried a gun to church, St. James Church, and some terrorists tried to take over this church and open fire. Sadly, 11 people were killed, 58 were wounded, but the one singular individual inside the church praying on that Sunday pulled his gun and returned fire and chased the terrorists away. One guy with one pea shooter versus a assault team with automatic weapons. But once bullets were being met with bullets, they ran for their lives. And since then, Charl van Wyke has been a strong advocate for gun rights. Why are we having him back on today? Aside from the fact that he's an excellent guest and we promised that we'd have him back on the show, because an interesting phenomenon is happening in the United States. Yes, here and around the world, there is an economic crisis. There is a terrible downturn in the world economy. But there's one area where people are making money, gun shops. There is a run on guns going on. There has been ever since Barack Obama won election to the presidency of the United States of America. A good friend of mine ran out the day after the election and bought himself an AR-15 semi-automatic assault rifle because he is afraid that while he may not be able, and he can't with the stroke of a pen, wipe out the Second Amendment, it may become more and more difficult for himself and his fellow Americans to be able to purchase arms, to be able to purchase weapons, to be able to purchase the type of weapons that they want to purchase. They believe that it's an absolute right under the Second Amendment, and they are very concerned. If you look, by the way, at the rating that Joe Biden got from the NRA, for what it's worth, he was rated F by the NRA. And let me see, how was Senator Obama rated? I don't see his final rating here, but I would suppose it's a low rating because he was in favor of gun control laws. Now, what happened during the presidential campaign is that in the swing states, and if you live in a swing state, you heard it all over the radio, all over television, you saw it, ads that were developed by the political action arm of the NRA, scaring to death people who believe in the right to bear arms, that if Barack Obama is elected president, they would lose their right to arms. And I got to tell you, Obama didn't help matters much when he was in San Francisco in a closed meeting where he didn't expect a blogger to be there and to report on what he said about people in Pennsylvania clinging to their Bibles and their guns. Well, if you want to talk about somebody clinging to both his Bible and his gun, our guest today is your guy, Charl van Wyke. Welcome back to News Talk Online on Paltalk.com.
Gary, great to be talking to you again, and thank you very much for the opportunity.
Well, it's always a pleasure to have you here on News Talk Online on Paltalk.com. Tell me, are you concerned? I know you're not an American citizen, but you watch this race very closely. Are you concerned, and as you travel across the United States on a publicity tour for the now companion DVD to the book, Shooting Back, The Right and Duty of Self-Defense, that Americans will lose their rights to bear arms now that Barack Obama is President of the United States?
Gary, that's a great concern, and I think everybody should be concerned about it. You know, when the Liberals come into power, they talk a lot of Greenpeace and things, but at the end of the day, you know, they like to take our firearms away, and we're going through that in South Africa right now, and also in places like the UK and Australia. There's been a massive surge in violent crime as they've been restricting the use and ownership of firearms. And I think it's something that the American people need to be really concerned about. You know, gun control just disarms the law-abiding citizens. The bad guys never hand in their weapons. And so I think the fact that people are buying a lot of weapons around America gives you a general idea of how the people are feeling here. And, you know, when one has a look around the world and sees what went on in places like the Soviet Union and Nazi Germany and China, Uganda, Rwanda, all these areas, you know, you can't trust government. Any government that wants to take your firearm away or even wants to start registering your firearms, you've got to be really concerned about what they're doing.
Well, having grown up in Detroit, Michigan, and having covered terrible, terrible crimes where innocent people were killed, sometimes by stray bullets, sometimes by intended bullets, I certainly can understand and empathize with those who are concerned about criminals having guns in their hands. But also, as somebody who loves the Constitution of the United States, I am aware